Welcome to the new Hypeman Show Live with your host and professional crappie angler, Mr. Zeke Anderson. Hey, we're talking all things crappie, including tournaments, baits, electronics, tips, tricks, and more. The Hypeman Show Live is brought to you by none other than the Bass Tank. And now, here's the hype man himself, Mr. Zeke Anderson.
What's going on, folks? Man, thank you guys so much for jumping on here to the show. 2 o'clock on Thursday. We've got an awesome show for you today. First off, I really have to thank some of the show sponsors here, guys. I could not do this without, obviously, what you see above me, the Bass Tank. We're live from the Bass Tank page. I appreciate these guys for supporting not only mine and Dylan's fishing, but also allowing me to do this show and supporting the show and, financially, time-wise, everything. They've been great. So big thanks to the Bass Tank. You see a rod over here, Huckabee Rods, another sponsor of the show. Appreciate them. Ken and Todd have been very, very good to us over the past few years. So thanks to those guys. And I've got a mount here, Beat Down Outdoor Products, guys. If you have not seen these, this is the Flex. It's one of their newer mounts at a really good price point, super sturdy mounts. Goes up and down, telescopes up and down, even comes with that cup holder and plier holders and everything. Your draft goes across there. Check them out, Beat Down Outdoors, guys. Big thanks. Oh, Garmin, right there in the middle of the screen. Shout out to Garmin for sponsoring the show. This would not be possible without all of them. So without further ado, I've got an awesome guest today, good buddy of mine, professional crappie angler, had a stellar year. I think this was this is probably his first full year out on the national trails. But without further ado, let's bring him in. Chad Turner.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here.
Man, appreciate you getting on with me, buddy. I know you've had a great run this year, but wanted to start out talking about, a lot of people don't know who Chad Turner is yet, right? And that is
Right.
all changing. So I want to start out talking a little bit about how you got started in this crazy game of crappie fishing.
Well, I started with my, my grandpas and stuff when I was a kid, just fishing with them in the wintertime, basically. But the past 5 or 6 years, I've really done a lot of fishing with my uncle, Denny Burdine. When you go fishing with him, you better pack your lunch. I mean, it's a daylight to dark type deal until you catch your limit. And he's a mentor of mine. He's a head football coach and AD and everything at Arkansas High for years and years. He's retired now, and we still fish together. But he's taught me everything I do. Hard work, really. If you got set your mind to something, go out and work hard for it and try to achieve your dreams. So.
That's awesome. I mean, it seems to be an overwhelming theme with everybody I talk to, that a family member of some sort, dad, uncle, brother, sister, mom, someone, grandmother, has gotten them into this sport of fishing, whether it's crappie fishing or bass fishing or trout fishing or whatever. Hey, Brian Baker, great question. Thank you. Where are you from, Chad? The people want to know where you're from.
I live in South Arkansas in a town called Magnolia, Arkansas. I was born and raised here. I've been in the insurance business here for next July. I'll be 25 years in the insurance business here in Magnolia. So I've lived here, and my home lakes are Lake Erland, which is a great fishery. It's about 7,500 acres. We have Lake Columbia that's in Columbia County that has nothing but blackfish in it. And so there's no whites in it at all. And so you can go out there in the wintertime, they'll school up and catch big, 2.5, 3 pound black crappie all day out there. It's a great fishery. So I'm an hour and 10 minutes from Millwood, an hour and 20 minutes from Darbone. I live in the greatest place to go fishing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's great fisheries everywhere around me.
Oh, you live in the Mecca, man. I mean, that Arkansas area. Yeah. I love it. I mean, I'm lucky here in Northeast Oklahoma, but you guys have some stud crappie and awesome fisheries down there. I got to get you to spend some more time on Millwood, though.
Yes, I do too, because I'm gonna go to Florida this year for the first time and fish Crappie Masters there in January, and that's going to be shallow water. So I plan on spending a lot of time. I went with Jeff Larch before he won the Wally's tournament and tried to learn the perspective mode and everything. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on Millwood here this winter just to try to learn perspective and learn more about catching fish in shallow water before I head down to Florida.
You went out with the man to do it. Hey, let me give some of these guys a shout here. Bob Atkins, man, appreciate you jumping on. Thank you for the kind words. Brian Baker, always good to hear from you, man. Scott England, appreciate it, my friend. Who else we got here? Yes, Bob, wouldn't be possible without Zeke either. Appreciate you, man. Trey Gaines, what's going on, Trey? Man, we had a good Zoom meeting the other night. Norman Vaughn, he says, what's up to Zeke and Chad? We got Big Sasquatch watching. Howdy, boys.
Hey,
what's going on,
Wesley?
Sasquatch? We miss you, brother.
Yeah, I talked to him last night.
He said he's a mule rider. I'm going to assume that's an inside joke between you guys.
No, we have a college here in Magnolia. It's a big college, and their mascot's a mule rider.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's where Wesley came to college at. It's here at Magnolia.
Gotcha. Bob Atkins is asking, using the live scope, do you prefer casting or holding bait on the crappie? Chad, go ahead.
I used to just vertical jig all the time, but now I'd rather have that casting pole in my hand than anything. I got the X series from Jinko, the 7 foot 2 inches, and I love casting to crappie because I can jig them whenever they're 4 feet in front or 5 feet in front of the boat. And if I want to cast out there at 35, 40 feet, I can do that too. I mean, I was at Kentucky Lake this year fishing the Crappie Masters, and there was some old men fishing by me a couple of days, and I started screaming and hollering in the boat, and everything. I was so excited. He goes, "You catch a big one? You catch a big one?" And I said, "Nope." I threw 45 feet over my shoulder back here and hit a fish on top of the head and caught him on the first cast. And I was just super stoked that I was able to do that, you know. So if I had my choice, I'm going to have a casting pole in my hand.
It's definitely a skill set that has got to be learned and practiced. It's something that Dylan and I worked on hard this year. Chad, I know you did too. Put in a lot of time on the water to get good at it. But once you do, I agree. It is fun. It is a fun way to catch them.
I don't have a specific reel I use. Iowa. I got H&H rod reels. I got whatever reel will hold a line. And I'm not sponsored by them, but I use a K9 6 pound test and to cast to the fish. And so I use a light line because I use little bitty jigs. Bayou Bob actually tied that one for me that's on there. I like casting a small jig and then just bouncing it over their head out there to distance. Lake Erlin here is our home lake, and it has really got to where in Darbone's the same way. The fish, I think the further we get into this live scope, we're getting spookier and spookier and spookier. And I think the game in the future is going to be casting to them in that situation because that's the only way you're going to be able to catch them. And I have to be able to cast 35, 40 feet and then just pop that jig over their head. So I can't throw anything real heavy or it'll just swing by them. I got to throw something real light with a real light line to where I'm able to cast that distance I need to get to the fish before they spook and swim off on me.
Absolutely. Once they start following it, you just keep that same retrieve coming and try not to change it at all once they start following. Matt Warren, what's going on, dude? Thanks for jumping on, buddy. Keith Young, what's happening? Slab Syndicate Crappie Jigs. Chris, what's going on, man? Thanks for getting on. Cody Usry, man, love you. We're going to have to hook up the next tournament. Kyle Mullet Fishing, what's going on, man? Yeah, John Gathright. I know. Them Arkansas boys are tough.
I've learned a lot of stuff from Lamar.
He's over there on Millwood.
Yeah, Lamar's from the Bass Tank, Lamar Bunny. We're really good friends, and between him and Zeke, the one thing I have to say about if you want to get better in the crappie world is go fish with someone that's better than you and try to learn from the professionals. So I'm always, go fishing with Robert Carlisle. I went and fished with Jeff Larch. I'm always like, I'm trying to get Cagle to come to Arkansas next year. I want to fish with the best fishermen out there to try to see what they're doing to where maybe I can try to get there along with those guys. Those are the guys I look up to. And I've been in the boat with Zeke. I mean, I'm always trying to fish with someone that's better than me to where I can learn. So when I get on the water, I just sit back and watch them. I know what I'm doing, but I just want to see what they're doing and how they present a bait. And so it's just I may not catch a fish the days I go with them, but I'm just sitting there just witnessing people that are greater than me on how they do things. So maybe I can pick that up and catch them, basically is what I'm trying to do. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love, I mean, we all love to go fun fishing, but as you know, I know Chad's like myself, we take this tournament fishing pretty seriously. So anytime we go out, we're trying to improve, trying to get better. It's nice spending time in the boat with guys that are better than you. So we're both fortunate. We've got a lot of friends that are probably better than I am.
Yes.
I know that. So
right.
It's
correct.
It's good to go fishing with those guys and try to improve. Norman Vaughn asked, mono, fluoro, or braided line? Now, you went over what you casted with, 6-pound high-vis K9 fluoro, correct?
Yes, that's what I use, and whenever and that's all I use. I don't use 8-pound or 10-pound or anything. I guess if I got into some heavy cover, I would go up to an 8 or 10-pound when I was casting or whatever. Because a lot of times I can still, even that pole's just 7 foot long, I still can jig that bait on timber. And so I just like the short rod just to be able to flip out there or cast if I need to at a further distance. And then when I go to a long pole, to the 13 or 15 foot pole, then I'll use a K9 fluoro at that point at a 12 to 15, 16 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. I don't really ever fish with a 20-pound braid, but just 12, 14 pounds I feel like is enough to do what I need to do to get them in the boat.
So you're using 12, 14-pound braid when you're vertical fishing?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'll use a fluoro whenever I'm casting.
Okay. So, guys, I went over this in the last feed, but I know we got new folks watching, so I want to, again, point out the difference between monofilament and fluorocarbon. A lot of us don't know this. I didn't know it until a bass fisherman, Kyle Cordiana, a buddy of mine, taught me several years ago. Fluorocarbon sinks, monofilament floats, essentially. So we use fluorocarbon when we cast because we're casting those tiny baits to get our fall rate the way it needs to be. Otherwise, that 16th ounce jig is hanging out at the top, and you can eat a dang Snickers bar waiting for its fall.
Especially if it's very deep water.
Exactly. Justin Smart's on here. What's up, man? Hey, I saw your stuff got delivered. Sorry for that hang up with FedEx, but hopefully you'll be up and running here tomorrow. Carlos Luis Willis, what's up, my man? Grenada Lake Slayer right there. Carlos is awesome. If you guys are going to Grenada looking for a guide, look up Carlos, man. He is a killer out there. There's a lot of good guides out there, but Carlos, I guarantee you're going to have a good time with him. Bob Atkins is asking a good question here. Do you think people have an advantage using a long rod and flipping to them, or your opinion, casting with a shorter rod better?
I like the versatility that a short rod gives me, that I can vertical jig if I get too close to the fish. I mean, because a lot of times you're fishing with a 15-foot pole, and I put my power poles down to stop my boat, and I still, if I drift up on that fish, here I am pulling the pole back, trying to fish it. And if I got that 7-foot one, I mean, it's easy just to drop it right down by my trolling motor. So it just gives me a lot of versatility on casting or jigging a fish right there any way I want to do it. So now, there are times when a fish wants the jig held on their head, like last year at Darbone in February. That we had that huge cold front come through the week before, and those fish were shocked, to be 100% honest with you. They were just, lethargic, not doing anything. And you had to put that jig, get the longest pole you could fish with, a 16, 18, 20-footer, in the practice days, and hold it on their heads to catch them. But like on Friday and Saturday, it kind of warmed up some, and then we started catching them casting then. But in the practice, you had to hold it at a distance out there on their head to try to get those fish to fire.
I couldn't get him to bite at all in practice. Me and Dylan struggled in practice at that one. A buddy of ours gave us a tip, TC Lloyd. I don't think he's on here watching, but he gave us a tip and helped us out that week. So we appreciated that. Kind of saved us on that one. Kyle Mullet Fishing asked, straight braid or braid to leader? Great question. What do you do, Chad?
I just fish straight braid.
Straight braid.
I don't
You're
want more stuff.
vertical,
I'm just
straight braid.
Yeah, because I'm afraid of tying more stuff with more knots. I do a Palomar knot with my 6-pound fluoro. I do a loop knot. My uncle taught me years and years ago how to do a loop knot, and I with any type of mono or fluoro, I use a loop knot, and then braid I do a Palomar knot. So
good info. I agree with Brian Baker. Good information. He just commented that. Good point. Bayou Bob over there, fluorocarbon is also a lot more abrasive resistant than mono. I didn't know that. So that's good info there. What's going on, Jason Thomas? John Gathright is asking if you ever use a spinner head, like a bladed jig head is what I assume he's asking.
yeah, I mean, in muddy water, if the fish aren't really firing and you need them to see something, I'll put, you have a spinner on there. Now, listen, it's a little bit different. Like these black crappie on Columbia, they love a spinner. And so I guess I shouldn't have said that because it'll hurt me on some tournaments there on that lake. But it seems to me on my home lake here that those black crappie want a tail moving and they want a spinner on there, and you can catch those fish a whole lot better with a black crappie in my experience. I don't use a spinner as much on a white crappie, but on black crappie, I do put a spinner on there. It just seems the action helps them fire a little bit better.
I agree with you. I mean, those black crappie tend to school up, and getting that moving bait and that flash from that bladed jig head really seems to help. That's about the only time I use one. A bladed jig head is if I'm fishing for schools of black crappie, really. And my old tournament partners in the office next door to me here, John Soka, he taught me a great trick with black crappie to answer Bob's question here. A spoon. I think it's the most overlooked bait in crappie fishing that there is. And that guy, John, is the king of the spoon. He catches a lot of bass on spoons. So it's a good tip.
I've never done that.
Yeah, last year at Table Rock at the Wally, that spoon trick saved us, and it was actually our biggest crappie of the week was a 145 white crappie.
Wow.
But they wouldn't react to anything else, so we busted that spoon out and popped one of the three that was set up on a tree just perfect. So, let's see. Jason Thomas asked, "What was that tip, Zeke?" Sorry, Jason, I don't know, man. If you remind me, and we can go back through it for sure. Chad, let's go start talking a little bit about the season you had, man. You had a great year. This was your first full year at the national level. I know you fished some last year.
Yeah, I fished some last year, and I didn't really, I fished 3 or 4 tournaments on the national level last year. Then I fished a lot of the South Arkansas Crappie Club and, local stuff around here just to, get into the crappie world. I was all-state in baseball. I've been in the insurance business 25 years, so my job's always, write more with pressure from people above me and stuff. So I'm always under pressure, and so I love pressure situations, and so crappie is something I can go out and do at my age to get in those pressure situations to where it's not, I don't have to talk to nobody. A lot of people ask me all the time, this past year I fished by myself, and I love fishing by myself. And a lot of people ask me why I fish by myself, and I tell them, in Columbia County, when I'm here, I'm an insurance agent, and I'm going to take care of my customers first. But that also means that when I go in a restaurant, I'm always, got to look around, say hi to my customers, and all that kind of stuff. But when I go fishing, I'm by myself. I can go out there and relax, and that's why I fish by myself. I can live and die by my own mistakes and my decisions, and I like it. I went and fished with Robert Carlisle last year. He sent me down in the truck. I paid for a guide deal, and we probably didn't fish but for 3 hours. We talked more about the mental side of things more than we did the fishing side of things. And so he really helped me, bring the mental side into this year. And I really believe that it helped me tremendously this year on how I was able to perform. So.
Absolutely, man. Robert's one of the best out there, and he's got that mental game figured out. He's a very goal-oriented angler, and
he is.
And he hits those targets most of the time. So a great competitor, super competitive guy. A lot of people don't know he was a national competition rifle or pistol shooter. And I know that I just botched that. So, Robert, if you're watching, I apologize. But he was a national champion in competition pistol shooting before he started crappie fishing. So, the guy seems to dig his teeth into something and really go after it and try to be the best at it. So, hats off to old Robert. So, yeah, Bob. So, old people need to crappie fish. That's pretty much
That's
what
right.
he's saying. Jim
I'm
Perry
old and
says,
fat, so that's why I crappie fish.
Jim Perry, thanks for watching. Says, I'm 82 years old and live on Kentucky Lake. Love fishing alone.
Yes.
I agree with you. I mean, I love being on the boat with friends and my dad, but there are plenty of times where it's nice just to be out there alone. You don't have to worry about anybody else, no other distractions. You can just go out there and go fishing, right? Just go fishing, Chad.
Just go fishing, baby.
Just go fishing.
That's
So,
what Lamar Bunny's a good saying. He said to me, like at Grenada this year before that tournament, I had 2 good spots, and he's like, just got on the phone and said, Chad, just go fishing and do what you do and just go fishing. So I actually I'm in the process of getting some shirts made up that says just go fishing with a crappie in the middle of it. I think that'd be a good little shirt to have and everything. And so Grenada was one of my, that's kind of, I was in second place after day one. I caught a 2180 stringer on day one. The biggest one I
let's take a step back. We're going to talk about Grenada. Let's really talk about Grenada because that was
Okay.
one of your best tournaments of the year, right?
Yeah.
That was a tournament that was of the ages, so for the ages.
Yes.
A
Especially for
legendary
y'all.
type tournament. Well, everybody there.
Yes.
So you came in, you go out day one, you've got some good spots, you're on good fish, and we're talking 3-pound fish
Yes.
at Grenada this year. Um, what did you, going into day one, what was your goal weight that day? I know that every day you go out tournament fishing, you kind of have that number in mind. What were you trying to hit day one?
I wanted my scales to say 19 pounds whenever I went into the day because I was catching that every day of practice, and I just wanted it to follow through those days also. And that day I got lucky because I didn't catch a 3-pounder the entire week. In the first day of the tournament, I caught 3 fish over 3 pounds, with my biggest one being 361. And so I was using, at the time I wasn't sponsored by them. I am now, but I was using this Jinko Kevin Rogers, the professional, he's, doing bass now, but him and his dad did fishing, whatever. But this warhead jig, it was the only jig I could find that I could boat flip because I fished by myself. And in Grenada, we were using 16-foot long poles because that's what the fish wanted held on their head. They really didn't want us casting. And so I can't net a fish with a 16-foot pole, because I want to get him in the boat as fast as I can. So every fish I caught that week, I boat flipped. And I boat flipped him on that Kevin Rogers warhead jig. I caught every fish that day on that on that jig head. And I was using the purple and chartreuse body. And that's the jig of my choice. If you told me I had a fish with a color choice the rest of my life, it's going to be a pink purple chartreuse. Wesley Miller calls it the Bistino jig. Everywhere I've seen it, it's always been called popsicle around here in South Arkansas. And if you told me I had a fish with a jig for the rest of my life, it's going to be that popsicle color. I just have confidence in it. And that's what I caught all those big fish on that first day of the tournament. It was a epic day. It was just an absolute blast. That fish had 340 something on my scales, and then when I weighed him on their scales, it was officially 361. So
361. It's crazy. So day one, you were hoping for 19, and what did the scale say when you dropped them on there?
2180.
2180.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
I was in second place behind Blake Cook, and I think Richard Falk was there, and y'all were there, and Matthew Rogers are probably, I think, the top 5. And then, but it was just an unbelievable day. And that was the first time I'd ever put myself in a situation to actually win a big tournament. I'd had a couple small top 10s where I went from 15th to maybe 9th or 10th and cashed a check in the years prior, but after day one, I had a chance to win the tournament. If I could go out and do the same thing the next day, and that's the first time I put myself in that situation. I was asking for pressure getting into the crappie world. Well, I got it that night. I didn't sleep any at all that night because it was just a position I'd never been in, and it was enjoyable, to be honest with you. It was a lot of fun. So.
Hey, so my guy Dylan Hackler's on here. He said, "Woo-wee, Jack Turner, OMG, baby." That's right, Dylan. We got the man on here, and he's got a question for you. Dylan, we're going to tackle that question in just a second because we're going to go into day 2 right now. Okay, day 2 rolls around. Morning of, you're out there floating around. Your head's got to be thinking, okay, I've got to do what I did on day 1.
Right.
To stay in the mix to, potentially win this thing. I know that you had a tougher day 2 than day 1, right?
Right, I did.
So Dylan's asking, what do you think? What do you think happened on day 2? Do you think your fishing moved?
I don't think they really moved. I had my line break on me. The first fish, I had my 16-foot pole. I put the jig on the fish's head, and he didn't want it. And I always have my casting pole sitting right beside me. I'll have a jigging pole and a casting pole to where I can just reach over on either side and grab whichever one I'm not using. And I flipped out there with my little bitty small jig, and he hit it. And as soon as I set the hook, my line came over my head. I mean, that's the first fish that I was going after that day, and it was a 3-pound crappie, and I lost him. And I'm like, here it is, 7:05, and I'm going, great, that's how today's going to go, type deal. And so, I got off to a bad start. At the time, I didn't have lithium batteries in my boat, and I was having battery issues on, because the night before you weigh 2180, well, then you got to do interviews. I was staying 30 minutes away from Grenada, or from where the check-in point was. So by the time you do that, go eat, go get ice, do everything you need to do, fill up with gas. I didn't get my batteries charged until 9. Well, we were leaving out at 4:30 in the morning, to get back over there and all that kind of stuff. So my batteries didn't get a full charge. And so, during the tournament, I was having to go out and run for 30 minutes to get my stuff charged up. And, but I fixed all that now. I went and bought me some Amped Outdoor lithium batteries. I haven't had any problems since then. And so next year, there's not going to be any running around trying to keep my batteries up. So, and I'll be able to compete, throughout the entire 8 hours of the tournament at that time, next year. So
you came in day 2 and weighed what, 19 something?
18 yeah, like 1888, something, right at 19 pounds. Right. I dropped from 2nd to 5th.
Finished 5th there at Grenada. Incredible finish. What was your total weight?
No, sir.
I don't remember. Somebody can add that up for us. Hey, guys, keep the questions.
40 pounds and 6 ounces.
40.06?
40.60.
40.60, 2-day weight. I mean, it's like a bass tournament.
It is.
Awesome tournament. Guys, we're going to stay on here. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll get right back. We're going to dive right back into Chad's best tournament of the year when we get back, and keep the questions rolling in. We'll get them all answered. We appreciate all you guys staying on, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, so stay tuned.
Oh, you're looking to buy fishing electronics, huh? Are you also looking for true experts to help guide you through it? Well, at the Bass Tank, you've come to the right place. We are live forward-facing sonar pioneers with thousands of hours spent learning through winning trophies, cashing checks, and just having fun. Whatever brand you need, we have it. We offer free shipping, and we have 2 financing options available. Our experts are here to help you. Call us today or visit thebasstank.com.
All right, guys, we're back. Thank you for sticking with us there. Always got to, let our sponsors get their time. We appreciate them sponsoring the show here.
Yes,
so let's go through some of these questions. That's right. We couldn't do what we do without them. Let's go through some of these questions right quick, Chad, and then we'll move on to Lake Washington. Kyle Jones, what's up, Kyle? Thanks for getting on here. Yep, Bissino. You said that's the Bissino jig around here, your popsicle color.
That's right.
John's on here watching. You probably missed the first part of the show. I think he was on the phone in there. but he was asking if you enjoy fishing solo or with a partner. And I know we kind of went through that already. Chad, why don't you quickly touch on that for those guys that are just getting on here?
I like fishing by myself. It's just I don't know. It's just I like to be able to make my own decisions and live and die. If I make the wrong ones or whatever, I like fishing with by myself. It's just I don't know. I just, like I said, with my job, I'm around people all the time, and it just gives me a time to go out on the water for 8 or 10 hours a day and just be by myself and do what I love to do and get my mind back right for the next week when I go to work. So,
yeah, I'm with you. So, Chad's a solo guy. Corey Carter, what's going on, man? Thanks for jumping on. Yes, my man behind the scenes, Shannon, has fancied this show up for us. So
sure
appreciate him producing the show here. Bob, it's a good question. I think some guys are doing this. Have you ever thought about using a solar charger on tournament days?
A solar charger? No.
Yeah, I've
I got the
considered
power
that.
pole.
Yeah, you got the power pole charge now, so you can push, you can move. Guys, if you haven't checked out Power Pole Charge, it's revolutionary when it comes to powering our boats. So we won't go into everything it does, but check them out. The Bass Tanks sells them. They're a tough product to get this year, but I'm sure we'll get more in stock here soon. So check out that Power Pole Charge. As far as chargers on the boat, I haven't seen guys using solar chargers yet, but I know Robert Carlisle and Joey Johnson, for instance, both use generators on the back of their boats. So sometimes they're annoying to fish around because you got to listen to a dang generator all day. So me and Dylan just crank up our music a little louder and dance a little harder on the deck of the boat to drown it out. Let me get here. Let's see. Max Mormon says, "Hey Chad, what's going on, Max?"
That's one of Max's jigs right there.
There you go, right there, Max.
Max is a guy I met in the South Arkansas Crappie Club, and he hand ties me jigs sometimes, and just he won't let me pay him for anything. He is one of the best guys that I've ever met in the crappie world. I've met a ton of wonderful new friends that I've never had before, and Max is one of those guys. He's a wonderful guy. I did a fundraiser the other day for my church, and we had a guy that fell from a deer stand that's paralyzed that goes to my church, and Max sent me $200 to give to him. He's just just out of the blue, didn't have to do it, doesn't even know who they are. And he sent a $200 check over here for to give to the church and to give to Kurt for him falling out of that deer stand. So that's the one thing that I love now that I'm in the crappie world. Zeke's one of my best friends in the world. I talk to Lamar, David Bailey. There's just a ton of guys now, Richard Falk now, that, I talk to on a weekly basis, all due to just us fishing together in the crappie world. It's like a small fraternity over here on the side that we just, we have a passion in common of fishing. And my wife's like, why don't you talk to me that much? I'm sitting on the phone with them for 30, 45 minutes. And I'm like, well, if we were talking about fishing, we talked for 30, 45 minutes. But, and that's the one other thing I want to say. I could not do this without my wife's support. I don't do a great job at the tournaments on thanking her as much as I should. And without her allowing me to go do this and chase my dreams, she means the world to me, and I appreciate her letting me go and chase my dreams.
Kind of segues us into what you're talking about. I'm right there with you. Some of my best friends in the world I've met through crappie fishing, and the camaraderie there is amazing. And this brings it. So Wesley asked the question here, guys. I failed to mention, you've heard it before, but Chad and his partner at the Red River this year stayed at Wesley Miller's house with me and Dylan. And Chad actually had a boat issue. And that's Wesley said, ask you about MacGyver fixing your boat at the expo.
Yeah, I had a trim issue. I had a boat backed out on my trim. And so I couldn't trim my motor the way I needed to. And then those new Mercuries have a mechanism in them that when it's not trimmed the right way, it shuts you down. So I couldn't go about 30 miles an hour or so. And I couldn't trim it either way. And Wesley had a guy come over. He knew I don't even know who his name. I tried to pay him some money. He took $20 from me just for his gas. Is all he take from me. But we got an extension cord, cut it in half, ran it up in the back of my motor over there, and he tied it down somehow with the solenoid or something with a trim, ran it up there, and I had a push button. And I had the cord where you plugged them in. You plugged it in this way, it would trim it up. You had to unplug it and plug it in the opposite way for it to trim it down, and you push the button. But it worked to get me through the tournament because that happened on day one of the tournament. We fished the entire week practicing. I fished a national championship the week before, and I go through there taking off on day one, and my motor's back there cutting out on me because that pin had fell out. And nobody in Shreveport, Bossier area had one to replace it. My guy I bought my boat from, Horizon Track Marine up in Clarksville, Sawyer Grace, I'm sorry. He had the part but couldn't get it to me because of just shipping with it being a weekend type deal. He did everything he could to call people and try to find them, but he just couldn't find them. So, but anyway, it was very interesting, and thankfully for Wesley's friend, I was at least able to trim it and finish the tournament, type deal. So that was a great because we ended up in the top 25 on that tournament, and it was just nice to be able to finish the tournament. If he wouldn't have been able to do that for me, I wouldn't have been able to finish the tournament.
That's that Southern hospitality down there in Louisiana. Right. Wesley kept telling us
those
about,
guys
and
are great.
They showed us. Yeah, we experienced it firsthand. So man, we appreciate those guys. I had missed a question up here from a buddy of mine, Luke Northcutt. He said favorite all-around jig head for tube style skirt. What would be your favorite all-around jig head for a tube style skirt?
That Kevin Rogers Warhead jig. You will not bend that jig out. Now, you're going to lose a bunch of them if you're fishing timber because you're not going, even with braid, you're not pulling that out if you get it hooked into a tree. You're just going to have to break your line. So get ready for that. But you can boat flip fish all day long with that Jinko Kevin Rogers Warhead jig.
Absolutely. Great jig. I've used it. Strong hook. Robert Johnson asked, what rods and reels do you use? I know we went over reels. You really use anything specific, but I know you use specific rods.
No, I use the Jinko X Series 7-foot 2-inch casting rod, and then they came out with the X Series. They got an X13 and X15 with Jinko that I use for when I vertical jig.
Corey Carter is asking, what is your biggest crappie ever?
That 361 I caught at Grenada in the tournament. The best time to catch a big crappie.
That's right, 361 on tournament day. Corey, mine's a 332 if you care, just a baby. And I totally blame Dylan for that. He caught a 364 on tournament day at Grenada. That should have been mine. It wasn't even his personal best. I was so angry. No, I was thrilled. I netted that fish for him. I thought, oh my goodness, all right, we're in this thing. So, but mine's a 332. Chad's a 361. Both some stud crappie.
Yes, sir.
Terry Brown, thanks for jumping on here and watching. Let's see. Blake Cook. Blake Cook's on here. What's up, buddy? The all-time day one, single day tournament record holder right there, Blake Cook. He had 2260 something, I think.
No, he had 2192 and I had 2180.
2192. Insane weights. Thanks for jumping on here, Blake. Justin Berry, my man Justin Berry is on here. Zeke needs a Netflix series. He says, well, hey, we'll see what happens. Thanks, Justin. Let's see. What else? Man, we got a lot of comments coming in. Appreciate the participation here. Dorian Lofton asks, what do you think is harder to fish for? What do you think is harder to fish for crappie, the South, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, or the North, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, etc.? So where's it tougher, North or South, basically? Is it easier to catch crappie in the southern states than the northern states, or vice versa?
I would say it's easier in the southern states just because of the dirtier water. The further north you get, the clearer the water's going to be and the tougher it's going to be to catch fish. Now, I haven't fished Wisconsin and Minnesota and stuff of that nature. But I would think that just being the dirtier water and the fish not being able to see as well, unless with live scope being able to put the jig on top of the fish's head, that's the South would be a much easier place to catch crappie.
I would think so. I would agree with that. I'm that clear water up north, and I have not done a whole lot of crappie fishing up north. Very minimal experience, but I'm a muddy water fisherman and like
That's
that
right.
dirtier water. Creep up
Yeah.
on, get a little closer to them. Chad, your wife
Yes.
Annie's on here. She says, "Hi, I'm the wife."
Hi, baby.
She's watching. I'll get to meet you one of these days.
That's right.
What's going on, Richard Ingram? Thanks for jumping on here, man. Let's see. Hey, Bob, we're going to get into the minnow conversation at the end. I like to save that one for the end, so
Okay.
we'll get those questions answered. Um, yeah, Norman, if I had a wife, I'd feel the same way. Saying absolutely, the wives are the backbone. Their support is priceless. I'm sure it is. I may or may not ever know that. So, ladies, if you're looking, hit me up.
Zeke's available. Hit him up. Yeah, that's a very important. Like I didn't say her name at the Wally deal. When I was up on stage, you go get in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people at one time. I've never been in that situation, and I forgot to mention her. But I tell you what, I mean, without her support, there wouldn't be no Chad Turner crappie fishing. So at least tournament fishing anyway. I'd be fishing here at home, but without her allowing me to go fish 7 or 8 weeks, because what a lot of guys don't realize. I mean, we leave out on Sundays or Mondays and gone for 5-6 days at a time to go do this. So
Yeah,
their support is greatly appreciated.
it takes a community. It definitely takes
It
a
does.
community, and I know everybody out there that is married and their wives support them like that. That's hugely important. And then like we've been saying, all of our sponsors are hugely important to us.
Yes.
Uh, Luke Northcutt, appreciate you. He said you guys are representing the fishing world in a great way. Keep it up. Thanks, buddy. We're
Thank you.
doing our best.
Appreciate that. Yes.
Let's see. Corey Carter says, haha, I'm still under 3 on his personal best. So hang in there, Corey. We'll get you on a 3-pounder.
Come to South Arkansas.
Yeah. So Blake is asking, what's it going to take on Grenada this year? Looking forward to seeing y'all. What do you
Depends
think,
on water
Chad?
level. It
Yeah.
depends on water level. I mean, because
Yeah.
we hit the perfect storm there this year. They said for 4 to 5 years before that, they were fishing 200 yards up there. You see that pine tree way up there? And yeah. Well, I was fishing beside it this time last year.
Yeah.
The water level was perfect. It was below normal. If it's that way again, we'll put the same weights up again probably. But if it's blown out, deep water and stuff, they'll be harder to find. So it depends on if it's low or not. To be 100% honest with you.
It's hard to imagine, seeing multiple 21-pound bags come in again. That perfect storm, hit right before
Yes.
that tournament hit right before those fish were going to drop their eggs, and so I'm not going to say
I
they
knew
were easy
people
to
that went
catch.
out there the week after we got there and fished for 2 days and might have caught 2 or 3 fish.
Yeah, and I think Blake
And the
would
week
agree
we
with
were
that.
there, I murdered them. I mean, I called Mike Valentine, on Thursday because it said in the rules you had to be off the water by 4. And I called him. I said, do I have to be off the water at 4 or do I have to quit fishing at 4? Because I'm out there catching 250s and 260s where I'm not going to be fishing at. And I'm like, I'm having a blast, So,
Yeah.
And he said, you can fish to 4. And I said, thank you. Put the phone down and kept on fishing.
Jerry Graham, what's going on, man? Thanks for
Hey,
jumping
Jerry.
on. Jerry's a good buddy of ours here.
Yes.
Corey Carter caught a 295, by the way. Him and Reggie are going back and forth. By the way, thanks. Reggie Donner's on here, man. Biggest supporter right there. Thanks for jumping on. Do you prefer having a net while using the steelhead or 2X hook, or just boat flip and not worry? I know, Chad, he's going to boat flip them.
I'm just going to boat flip them. I mean, when you're by yourself, it's hard to have a fish at 16 foot, 15, 16 foot pole and be able to reach him to net him, So, I mean, I just hook him and bring him in the boat. I mean, that 361, I mean, every fish at Grenada this year, 40 pounds and 60 ounces, I boat flipped every one of them into the boat.
Matt Willie, I'm sorry. If you're trying to comment on YouTube, I can see him now. Maybe I couldn't see him earlier, but I am seeing the YouTube comments coming in now, guys. We're live across multiple platforms here, so I can see the YouTube comments now, so I apologize if I missed something earlier. Michael Woods says, "Great job, guys. Question for you both: all-time favorite lake to fish for crappie?" Let you start, Chad.
I have a lot of great lakes. It's hard for me to say that, but just because of me catching my personal best stringer on Grenada, I'd have to say Grenada.
I'm gonna go with Lake Fork. Actually, I love Grenada, and Dylan and I obviously had a great tournament there. But I'm a standing timber guy. I love fishing standing timber. Dylan will tell you that same thing. If we're in a timber lake, he's gonna turn loose the reins and let me go. And if we're catching open water fish, I'm gonna turn loose on him and say, do your thing. So I
I'm looking
love
forward to
Lake
going to
Fork.
Lake. I'm looking forward to going to Lake Fork. I've never been there. It's probably just 3 hours from my house or so. But Crappie Masters going there the first week of April, so I'll get my first. I'll definitely get to fish it this year for the first time. So my favorite
It's
lake may change also.
it's a lot of fun, a lot of quality fish there. David Bailey, Chad, you
What's
went
up,
over this
David?
earlier. Show him that bait that you caught your big stringer on at Grenada.
That well, this is the package that Jinko. That's what I caught him on that popsicle color with that warhead jig, that quarter-ounce warhead jig, so I could get it down there to him fast.
There you go.
Big pink head.
That was it.
David Bailey's
And
one of my good friends. I talked to him. He's one of the best guys in this world. He's a top-notch guy and a heck of a crappie fisherman.
Bob, we appreciate your participation, and sorry to hear about your loss. I heard you recently lost.
Yeah, his dad.
Your dad here recently. So man, we're thinking about you and hoping the best for you. So appreciate you getting on here and participating and asking the right questions, man. David Bailey, I don't know if Chad's going to let you borrow his boat this Saturday for a South Arkansas crappie boat tournament. You got to talk to him in private about that. He can tell in private, not in public.
He's probably one person I probably would let use it, as good as the guy as he is.
People see the 10 grand Crappie Masters check thinking y'all are rich, LOL. They don't know the truth behind tournaments. You ain't lying. 10 grand, you only stretch so far, but I'd rather win it than not, for sure.
Like Justin Smart said, that trophy lasts forever. That money comes and goes, and so it's more about the recognition and knowing that you can compete with these type of anglers out there whenever you go to these tournaments. For me,
Yeah.
that's I just want to feel like I belong fishing. When I show up at a tournament, I just want to feel like I belong. I'm one of the guys that has an opportunity to win every time I show up. Is what my goal is.
Can you hear me, Chad?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, you just broke up there for a second. I think you're good now.
Okay.
Brian Baker wants to know what kind of boat you have. What do you fish out of?
A PHX Phoenix 21 footer that I bought from Horizon Track and Marine here in Arkansas from Sawyer Grace.
Okay, Chad, I think we're caught up on the questions and comments here. We just have a few minutes left. There's a couple things. So you had another great tournament at Lake Washington.
Yes.
All right, quickly go through day one. What'd you catch?
Well, in that tournament, the fishing was very, very tough. Everybody was having a very tough time on catching fish and finding fish. So, like Thursday at noon before the tournament, I went and took a nap because, we fished Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and nobody was catching. I mean, you go out and catch 7 or 8 fish a day. So there was no pressure to me on that tournament. It was put your head down and just go fishing. And so, I like that, because it's just I like to fish fast. I like to fish 40 feet out there in front with my live scope, 45 feet. I like to fish 15 foot deep, and I like keeping those settings the same at all times. So when I see a big fish, I know it's a big fish, and I'll use my power poles and stop my boat and then ease up and try to catch the fish or cast to it. On day one, I caught 1079, which put me in third place behind. I think either Richard Falk was in first and Matthew Rogers was in second, and I was in third place. And so I wasn't expecting that in practice. But that day I just put my head down and I got lucky and got some good bites. I think I caught a 174 that day that really helped a whole lot.
So awesome, awesome tournament. You ended up finishing second place, right?
Yes, my goal, because I didn't get a trophy at Grenada because I went from second to fifth. When I went to bed that night, I said my goal is to be sitting in the hot seat after I weighed, because I knew I'd be at least third place so I could get a trophy. And then I moved up one place ahead of Matthew, and then of course, good friends Richard and Ashley with the Bass Tank also won the tournament, which is I was super happy for them. I mean, I think I lost by zero point 0.7, 0.8 pounds or so. I mean, that was a pretty good lead in the crappie world. They did a wonderful job that week.
It was a good tournament. Dylan and I were there. We ended up getting 11th. We had a real bad day one and a pretty good day two, and moved up 10 or 12 spots to 11th. We're always one spot out of the plaques and one spot out of the money, it feels like. So
Yeah.
Kings of 11th place. Last year was me and John, Kings of 11th place. But Washington was good. And then,
Rookie of the year.
yeah, exactly. Thank you for that, for reminding me. And then we go to the Red River, and Chad fishes day one, qualifies for day two, fishes day two. Didn't know if you were going to make day three.
No, at the Red, I did not. We were in 41st place after day one to make the top 50. I'd actually had left to go try to find that part to fix my boat. And Zeke called me and said, "Hey, you're in 41st. You made the cut." And I was like, "Great." And so the next day we go out, and I'm fishing with a partner. I had Stevie Yates fishing with me, and we caught over 10 pounds that day, and moved from 41st all the way to 24th to get in the top 25. And if it wasn't for that day, we had a wonderful day. And Stevie caught the fish of the tournament that he let get around the trolling motor and the prop of the trolling motor and broke it off. And so it could have been much better for us that day. And then day three, we moved up another three spots and ended up in 21st overall. So I was just happy to be invited to that tournament, to be included in the top 100 anglers, fishing on that. And I was appreciative of Wally giving me the invitation, and I was glad to make it to the stage. Just to go on that stage and be in the top 25 with those type of anglers that were there fishing that tournament meant the world to me. And then, I like talking because of my job and everything, but when I walked out in front of those 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people that were there, I did have a little, I forgot to thank my wife, forgot to thank one or two sponsors, and so it was a different experience getting to walk out in front of. It was neat for Wally to do that, to get us to be. It's like the Super Bowl at the end of the year, to have that many people in front of us to get to walk out and talk in front of. It was really a cool experience, and so now we're qualified for next year going to Branson, and hopefully we can do it again.
Kyle Jones wants to know if you stayed in the Caspiana all 3 days.
Yeah, where?
You can fish Caspiana at the Red River?
I don't even know where Caspiana is.
We don't know, Kyle. We're just some rednecks out there trying to catch some white perch. So
that's right.
I don't think he was in the Caspiana. Wesley will be able to tell you. Brandon Townsell. Yeah, Brandon Townsell. A great question here. Going to put you a little bit on the spot here, Chad. He says, "Who is a fisherman you look up to?"
Who I look up to? Well, I mean, I love how Zeke and Dylan have such a great time when they go fishing, and they'll show up like at Grenada. They drive in on Wednesday morning, fish Wednesday afternoon, have trolling motor problems, go put a battery in, fish half a day on Thursday, then go win the tournament. But then they go have a blast the entire time. I mean, I guess I probably take the tournament side a little bit too seriously or whatever. But I look up to Zeke. I look up to Eric Cagle. I mean, I look up to guys that can go break a lake down. Matthew Rogers. I mean, there's, Robert Carlisle. Because my big thing is, if I can find the fish, I can catch them. My biggest, I would say, my worst thing about my fishing that I need to work on is just breaking a lake down and finding the fish. But when I find them, I'm coming, But it's just I haven't got there yet. Like these guys that are guides, Jeff Larch and Eric Cagle and all these, they're guiding every day. So if those fish move, they've seen where they've moved to, and you can say, well, they probably did this. Let me go over here and look. Well, I haven't been on the water 275 days in the year because I have, that's their job, and my job is selling insurance. So them being able to break the lake down and go and know what fish do whenever the pressure and stuff comes is, I admire that they know what to do that, because that makes me, I'm really jealous, to put it that way.
And when you fish single day tournaments, that's not as important. When you fish multi-day tournaments, that is hugely important. Is being able to follow those fish when they move. You're able to figure out why they moved and where they might be going.
Yes.
So recognize the water's falling a little, it's raising a little, it's muddied up, it's cleared up, and putting all that together for multiple days in a row. So all the guys he mentioned are great at it. Myself, I probably have to go back to before anyone knew who I was, and one of the only guys putting out good YouTube content when I was trying to learn how to do this stuff way before LiveScope was Kevin Rogers. And now Kevin has taken on a whole nother, a whole other animal. Fishing MPFL this year, the same league that John's fishing in the bass world, and is doing really well. I know he cashed at least one check this year, if not two, and we're talking $9,000 checks here, on the low end in that league. So good for him for taking that risk and doing something different.
The thing about Kevin is, even back when I was starting, I mean, you sent him a private message on Messenger. He always answered my questions. He was always there when I had a question. And if he came out, because he always travels and came out here and fished a lot. I'd see him on Millwood or Lake Erland. You go up and talk to him. He'd sit there. I mean, just a good guy. I mean, give you his time. And with his experience with him and his dad, it was always nice to have someone like that. That's the thing about the crappie fishermen that, I mean, they're just great guys. I mean, they'll come in there and help you. They're not going to sit there and tell you exactly where the fish are, but I mean, they're going to, if you have questions, especially after a tournament, they'll tell you anything. And that's what I love about the crappie guys in the crappie world. So.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of great ones out there. Too many to mention for sure. But guys, the last thing I want to talk about, and I talk about this on every live feed that I do here, and Chad, want to get your opinion on it. Is I'm very passionate about the sport of crappie fishing, tournament crappie fishing, especially at the national level, and we're talking about national level here. The whole live bait versus artificial only. What are your thoughts on that topic at the national level of crappie fishing?
Well, sponsorship in our side for us anglers is, because this, kind of an expensive deal to go do these tournaments and be gone for 4 or 5 days paying for everything. And, and these guys making these, hair jigs and these plastics, are the guys and girls that we rely on to go hit up for sponsorships. And so I would love on the national stage if they just went straight to where it was artificial only, just because of the fact that they're making more money when we're buying and using their jigs, and in return they can help us whenever we want to go fish these tournaments to represent them. And it's a win-win situation for both the angler and the people that are making the jigs, trying to sell it, making a living on their side also.
I agree completely. You guys know where I stand on it by now. This is one of several conversations that I want to start having over the next couple of years with the guys that own these trails and the guys that fish these trails, because without the angler support, we're never going to get these things changed. So I would love to see them go artificial only at the national level. At the club level, not at all. I'm not promoting that. At the club level, we need major participation to continue the sport to grow. But at the national level, let's take care of those that take care of us, and that's all of these bait companies and that spend hours and hours and hours tying hair jigs and pouring plastics. And I know a lot of them have been on here today. Slab Syndicate's been on here. Corey Carter has been on here. Bob. He makes a great plastic bait. Bayou Bob's been on here. He ties some great jigs and pours plastics. So, man, we appreciate all you guys. It's time to wrap up here. Chad, thank
Can I
you for
say one
coming
more thing,
on.
Wes? I
Yeah.
want to say one thing if I can. I want everybody to know that the reason why I bought a brand new boat last year, and I bought it stripped down. My dealer at Horizon Tractor Marine was wonderful enough to sell me the boat with nothing on it. I carried my boat to the bass tank to have them completely wired. I bought all my electronics, my trolling motor, and everything there because I'm not mechanically inclined. I know insurance, okay? I don't know how to wire a boat or do anything. So when I'm out on the water, I want to make sure that my electronics are going to work for me. But the other main thing is since they did that for me, I have Darren's cell phone number. And you can get it too if you let them do this for you also. But when I have problems on the water, I pick up the phone and call Darren, and he just walks me through every time. I'll just say, listen, I'm the stupid kid. Just walk me through on how to do this, and he does. And so anybody out there that ever wants to have their boat rigged completely and then have the customer service afterwards, give the Bass Tank a call and let them hook you up on wiring, selling you all your electronics, trolling motor, the whole 9 yards with them.
Don McClish, I know it's been a long controversy, the live bait versus artificial. And thank you, Chad, for that, by the way.
You're welcome.
That was a little sponsor plug for the show's best sponsor here.
Well, they've been great to me. I can't complain at all. But I wasn't even on the pro staff when I chose to bring my boat there. They asked me after they was done with my boat. So that plug's not. But I'm just telling you that they did what they said that they were going to do, and they were there for me whenever I had problems on the water, whenever I called Darren. And so if you're looking for something like that, give them a call.
We try to follow through. We definitely do our best to take care of every customer we have. And it's not always easy, but it's what we all love doing. So appreciate that, Chad. Thank you everyone for getting on here and watching. Man, awesome show. Chad, thank you for being with me. Again,
thanks for asking me.
Absolutely, man. We'll do it again. I wish you best of luck with your, next year's season. I know I'm going to be out there competing with you and against you, and can't wait to do it. It's always a good time. Thank you guys again for getting on here watching, and don't forget about our sponsors, the Bass Tank. Guys, holler at us for any of your electronics needs, any boating accessories. We're constantly adding new products to the website, so stay tuned there. Trying to put out new videos with good content that can help people increase their catch rate. That is our goal. And Huckabee Rods, got one of these Trident 13s behind me. If you guys haven't tried them out, definitely give them a look. And Be Done Outdoors, guys. These mounts are solid. You will not regret getting one of these mounts. They're awesome.
You will not regret it.
All right, guys, thank you very much. And we'll be making an announcement regarding next week on the guest we're going to have on. It's going to be a good time. So stay tuned. Appreciate you guys getting on. We'll see you next week.